He built his cabin log by log. The watching alien mother was a lonely widow longing for family. The first snow had just started to fall when Ethan Rowe arrived at the edge of the northern woods. He stepped out of his rusted truck, boots sinking into the fresh powder, and gazed at the endless stretch of pine and silence. It was exactly what he'd wanted, a place far from people, far from the noise of the world that had taken everything from him. The land was rough, untamed, and cold enough to bite through his jacket, but he didn't mind. He'd come to build something, to start again. The next morning, Ethan set to work. Each swing of his axe echoed through the still air as he cut timber for his cabin. His hands blistered, his back ached, but there was satisfaction in the rhythm. He worked until dusk, when the light turned blue and the forest grew eerily quiet. He didn't know that, from a ridge above the valley, something was watching him. The watcher wasn't human. She crouched low among the snow-laden ferns, her pale, translucent skin blending with the icy landscape. Her name, at least the one her people had given her before they'd vanished, was Larathan. She had come to this world years ago, seeking refuge after a war that had scattered her kind across the stars. She had lost everything, her mate, her children, her home. And now, she wandered the forests of Earth unseen, surviving, always searching for warmth she could never quite touch. And now she watched this human, strong, quiet, and alone, building something with his bare hands. Night after night, she observed him from afar. When he slept, she drifted closer to his camp, studying the human tools, the rough hands that built instead of destroyed. Humans were a paradox to her, creatures of both ruin and creation. When a storm rolled through one evening, she stayed longer than usual. Lightning flashed, illuminating her slender figure near the edge of the trees. Ethan stirred, half awake, and saw a shadow that wasn't quite shaped like a deer or a bear. He grabbed his rifle but hesitated. The figure didn't move, only watched. Then it was gone. The following days were harder. The cold grew harsher, and his supplies ran low. One morning when Ethan went to check his traps, he found something impossible. The snares were reset, and 3 rabbits lay neatly beside them, their fur dusted with frost but their bodies untouched. He frowned, confused. He hadn't caught them, and there were no tracks nearby. The same thing happened the next day. Food left for him, his firewood stacked neatly, as though some unseen neighbor had decided to help. At first, he thought he was losing his mind. But then he began to notice signs, the faintest prints in the snow, longer and narrower than any human foot, and glowing flecks that shimmered blue beneath the moonlight. He wasn't alone. That night, he left a gift. A strip of smoked venison on a wooden plate by the edge of the forest. He said nothing aloud, just set it there and went inside. The next morning the plate was gone. And in its place was a single object. A smooth crystal, faintly humming with warmth. As the days passed, the strange exchange continued. Food, tools, small tokens. Ethan began to speak into the woods at night, his voice low and uncertain. He told the unseen listener about his wife, gone 3 winters ago, about the quiet that haunted him since. He didn't expect a response. But one night, as he spoke by the fire, a soft sound came from the darkness. Not words, but a tone like wind through glass. He turned slowly, heart pounding. And she stepped into the light. Her form was slender, wrapped in faintly glowing fabric that rippled like water. Her eyes, large, pale, and full of impossible sadness, met his. For a moment neither moved. The fire crackled between them, fragile and alive. When she finally spoke, her voice was soft, layered, both near and far. "I did not mean to frighten you," she said. "I only watched you build." And it reminds me. Reminds you of what? Ethan asked quietly. Home, she whispered. He didn't understand at first, but as she told him, haltingly in broken fragments, about her lost world and the family she could never return to, he began to see her not as something alien, but as something painfully familiar. They met many nights after that. She would sit near the fire, her form dimming and brightening as though unsure whether she belonged there. Ethan taught her words: log, fire, friend. She taught him the names of stars he'd never seen. Slowly, the loneliness in his cabin began to fade. Winter deepened. The cabin was nearly finished. Roof sealed, walls sturdy, hearth warm. Ethan built an extra chair by the fire, though she never sat in it. She said her kind couldn't stay too long in human air. It dimmed them, made them fade. One morning, he woke to find strange markings etched into the snow around his cabin, a spiral pattern glowing faintly. When he stepped outside, Larathan appeared, her glow weaker than before. It is time, she said softly. My world calls again. The storm between stars will open, and I must go. Ethan felt his chest tighten. He wanted to ask her to stay, but the words caught in his throat. I was alone, she whispered, until I saw you build, log by log, piece by piece. You made a home. You reminded me what it means to keep living, even when everything is gone. He swallowed hard. Then take that with you, he said. And remember, you've got a home here too. She smiled, or something like it, and placed her hand, cold and luminous, against his chest. As do you, human. Then the wind rose, swirling snow into light. When it cleared, she was gone. Spring came slowly to the northern woods. The cabin stood strong, sunlight spilling through its windows. Ethan often sat by the fire at night, staring at the extra chair. Sometimes, when the wind shifted, the crystal she'd left behind on the mantel would hum softly, filling the room with a faint, otherworldly glow. And he would smile, knowing that somewhere beyond the stars, a lonely widow remembered the man who built his cabin log by log, and gave her the warmth of family once more. Winter deepened, and the cabin was nearly complete, a sturdy refuge against the endless white. Ethan had carved an extra chair beside the fire, though his strange visitor never sat in it. Larathan said her kind couldn't linger long in Earth's air. It dimmed the light within them. Still, she came to watch the fire, her eyes reflecting its warmth as they shared quiet stories of lost worlds and broken hearts healed by companionship. One dawn, Ethan stepped outside to find glowing spirals traced in the snow, symbols not of this earth. When he turned, Larathan stood there, her light flickering weakly. It is time, she said softly. The storm between worlds opens again. I must return. Ethan's throat tightened. He wanted to tell her not to go, that this cabin, this small patch of wilderness, felt empty without her, but he only nodded. Then take what we built with you, he said quietly. And know you've got a home here too. She stepped closer, her hand cool and luminous against his chest. And you, human, she whispered, you taught me to live again. You gave a widow her heart back. A soft wind rose, swirling around them until the snow glowed like stars. When it faded, she was gone. Spring crept in slowly after that. The forest came alive with meltwater and birdsong. Ethan often sat by the fire, the extra chair still waiting beside him.